All right, I'm on Adibi on Serious and Cylinder's Bodybuilding. What's up, dude? What's going on? We're like fucking family now.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
We're doing good, man. I mean, just came home from work. Got to go to the gym after this. Got another
Yeah,
podcast tonight. It is what it is. Got to stay busy.
you're in Jersey?
Yeah, I grew up in New York, and then now I'm in Jersey. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'm in Dallas. So,
you grew up in Dallas?
yeah, born in Dallas, raised in Arlington. So, like the original Metroflex, I grew up. When I joined the gym, I saw Ronnie Coleman right away. So I was training right next to him. Growing up, and then Johnny Jackson, Branch Warren, all those guys, and so it was pretty surreal. So,
Yeah, during that time, it was like they were coming out of Texas like nobody's business at that time.
yeah,
But
yeah.
how old are you now?
I'm almost 41.
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah. So we're in the same generation. I'm a little
I
older
started
than you.
competing early though. I started competing in high school at 18. So,
How far did you go?
well, I got into soccer. I was a soccer player, so like a skinny little kid, and so I had some Osgood-Schlatter issues with my knees, and so I started to rehab it like through weights, and so I stopped running, started eating and gained a lot of weight over summer, and then I was like, I was already reading the magazines and stuff, and I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. How old are you, John?
48.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't know anything about it. We didn't have anything back then. And so I just started putting on muscle. And then at the Gold's Gym I was at, there was a lot of good bodybuilders too. And people kept saying, you should do a show. You should do a show. I got the guy. I went to a guy named Ronnie Swire. He passed away a couple years ago. He never turned pro, but he was in all the magazines and known as one of the best posers. And he kind of referred me to another coach for help. And then I used him for like my first four shows. And I won on my first four shows at like 18, 19, 20, 21. And then kind of went on to the national level after that. So,
Did you ever get your pro card or no?
no, there's a lot of crazy stories surrounding that. I mean, I went to, at that time, I remember Johnny Jackson told me, he's like, hey, man, just the best times I ever had was trying to get my pro card. After I got my pro card, it kind of lost that like magical kind of feeling. And so I wasn't in any rush. I had like a 10-year plan. And, you know, I was like, okay, in this 10 years, this is where I want to be in 10 years. And so when I got on, I started, I dealt with a lot of corruption stuff. And I didn't do bodybuilding like most people do. I didn't have like an off season where I bulk up real big and go down. So in my off season, I would get smaller on purpose and do modeling type work. Like I would go from competing as a heavyweight to, stripping muscle down, getting down to like 210, going up to New York for a few months and staying and, doing auditions, photo shoots and like that. And so I was kind of like torn back and forth between that. And after a while, I had to pick bodybuilding, which was my true passion, and kind of give the modeling thing up. And that was just like money, and it was actually good money, extra money. But then that's when I kind of pursued the bodybuilding, and I remember I did the first year I did North Americans. That's when Sean Roden earned his pro card. I had a judge contact me like 2 weeks out from the show, and he was like, "Hey, man," I didn't know he was a judge at the time. He was like, "Hey, I'm a big fan of yours," and and back then that was normal. Like when you would prep for these shows, you would have, and I think Joe LaBelle to this. He was a local guy out of Oklahoma. He would shoot a lot of us out of here, like Branch Warren, a lot of us guys. He had a website called mostmuscular.com. And so um, my best friend at the time, Chris Jalali, we grew up bodybuilding kind of together. He was a few years older than me. Rest in peace. He passed away, but we kind of started doing all the, magazine stuff together with like Reps magazine. It was like the muscle mag for like a smaller, like, size. And then eventually I went to, got signed with Muscle Mag. But we grew up bodybuilding together, and anyways, back to the judge story, so we would have fans that would just send us money getting ready for a show. Like, hey, what show you
What?
doing
Are
this
you serious?
year? Yeah, yeah. And so like, hey, what show are you doing this year? Junior Nationals, okay. And they would just PayPal you, someone be $200, someone be $1,000, someone be. I even had a guy from Italy. He would send me something with the taxes or how to send with the bank. He would literally send me an envelope every month with $500 in it inside like a little book.
What did
And
they
so
expect something in return? Was it like a Nick
no,
Trigili
I
thing?
never met these guys. I never met them. I never did any sort of webcam with them or anything. They were just, it was very different back then. And so
Yeah, it
that's how we.
yeah, that sounds, it sounds, I listen, I believe it. It just sounds strange. You know what? Honestly, it's probably, I don't know. There's a lot of perverts out there, and even perverts with money. So I fucking believe it. Believe me.
Well,
I
leading up
don't,
to that show,
unfortunately, well, there's something wrong with me. Nobody want to ever send me fucking money.
leading up to that show, I got an email. He was like, "Hey man, I'm a big fan. I would like to, hang out while you're in town." I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool." He's like, "Would you be up for some kissing and cuddling?" I was like,
Oh,
I would get
Boris.
crazy emails all the time. I was like, "No, man, that's something I wouldn't be interested in." He's like, "No problems. I respect that. I'll be judging the show." And
Oh
so
God.
Dave actually helped me that year. And I remember Sean Roden weighed in at 235, but they let him compete in the heavies still. That's under 225 and a quarter. And I looked good that show. I wasn't usually my usually really crisp self. I had a lot of fake gear that year, but it was I got a placing that wasn't deserved, and it was just kind of like kind of like disappointing, and that's kind of what eventually led me into um, getting into judging myself. But after that show,
So
Dave
hold
helped me
on.
for.
I gotta ask you one question. Sorry, man. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, no, go. You go ahead.
Um, Roden got to compete in a heavyweight, even though he didn't make the heavyweight division, and you got a placing that you didn't deserve. Do you think it had anything to do with that particular judge that had said, "Hey, let's get together and do this, this, and this," and you said, "I no."
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I talked to Dave after the show, and Dave was like, they put me in like I think the third call out, but I got eighth place, and that was my like. I did junior nationals a couple times before that, and at that time, junior nationals was a really big show, and the 2007 junior nationals, I got third place, and I talked to the judges afterwards, and I was like, because I can't remember the guy that won. It was a light skinned black guy, but I was like, I literally was like 215, 2 days out from that show, and I had gyno really bad, but I didn't get it from gear. I started taking something called Avodart. It's kind of like Propecia. And then my glands started swelling a lot. And by the time showtime came around, I had like a golf ball sized gyno. And so after the show, I talked to Lee Thompson, that was our chairman at the time, which I didn't even know because at that time, you really didn't know who was who because there was no social media, there wasn't these workshops. And so he's like, we counted you down 2 spots just because you had gyno, and that shows like drug-like side effects. And I'm like, man, but I was like literally twice the size of the other guys in hardness. And he's like, yeah, just come back, and that's how it is. So I kind of got a taste of how it was, kind of going into it. And I was fine with that because I had a long-term plan, and
Now I don't want to. I want to go back to last question about Roden. Sorry. Do you think that maybe he entertained those offers, and that's why he was able to compete in the heavyweight division?
I don't want to say that obviously because he's not here
Yeah.
with us anymore, but
Right. Right.
he was right in front of me. He wasn't the Sean Roden we knew of. He was really soft that show. I think going into that show, he had a lot of shoulder problems,
Mm.
so he wasn't in that like that great of condition. But yeah, he was like 235, and then they let him weigh in and compete in the heavies. But
And where was it? What show was this, or where was it?
that was North Americans.
Where's that? Where it's in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, at that time I think it was in Cleveland. I think it was I think it was Cleveland at that time.
You know what's funny is I don't maybe I'm just not aware. I don't see that happening with guys like, I don't see shit like that going on with Steve Weinberger or Tyler Mannion or, but then again, I don't know who the judges are in the amateur circuit. I mean, I know who they are in Jersey and New York, right?
They've cleaned it up a lot. So back then, it was frustrating because you couldn't say anything because you would just get blackballed. So you couldn't really, there was no really any person to really go to, or you really didn't even know who to go to. You just kind of, and I would kind of ask Dave for advice. He's like, it is what it is. Just keep improving yourself and getting better, and that's all you can really do.
Right.
Um, the judges at that time, it was I didn't really know them that well. There were most of them were real older, and they would tell you just basic stuff. Oh, you look great. Just put on some more size, and when you would try to ask other questions, and they would just give you generic answers, and it's
Right.
just kind of how it is. So
But so after that, basically because what year was that?
I believe that was 2009. And so after that show, I wanted to, since me and Dave were such close friends, I was like, I want to hire someone that's not my friend, so I can get someone that's, because when I grew up playing soccer, my coach was a guy named Hassan. He played for the Iranian national team with my uncle,
Mhm.
Asghar. They played together. And we were the number one team in the United States, and we went over to play in the Gothia Cup in Sweden and Denmark. So he was abusive to us, though. I mean, he was a very hard coach. We were one of the best teams, but I needed that kind of like coach again. My friend Kirsch Jalali was coached by Hani before, so I reached out to Hani. We first did an off season together, and like I said, I wanted someone that wasn't my friend. Dave was always really good there for me. He was like, "You look freaky, you look great." I wanted someone to tell me, "You don't look good. You got to
Ah,
do
you knew how
do
you
better." I needed
responded.
that.
Okay. Okay.
I needed that really like just hard
Yeah.
coaching type.
Somebody
So
cracking the whip. Yeah.
yeah,
You know
and
what's you know
so
what's funny is that I mean I didn't compete as much as you did, and I never made it to a national level. I did like 4 shows. I always needed the opposite, which is really weird because I was so hard on myself, and I
yeah,
would try so hard. I always needed a cheerleader. Like I would need
yeah.
somebody that would like boost my spirits because I was always so hard on my. It was really weird. I guess some people just react differently from different methods of coaching. But go right ahead.
Yeah, everybody's different. I think, like I said, that led back kind of like to my soccer roots where I was used to that type of coaching. So I hired Hani. We did an off season together. Um, I was taking a medication called Propecia for hair loss, and uh, I was told that, and people, it's still kind of like there's studies that say it does, it doesn't. I was on it for like 5 years for my hair thinning, and Hani's like, you got to get off that. That's holding back your muscle and strength gains. So once I got off Propecia, within the next 6 months, 12 months, my strength went up, my size went up, and it was definitely holding me back. So we did an off season together. He wanted to make sure that Hani's one of these guys that's not going to take you on unless he thinks he can make you one of the best. He doesn't get guys that are not good and turn them great. He gets guys that are already kind of established. And so we did a whole off season together, like natural, like on nothing. And he wanted to make sure to see blood work afterwards
Right.
and just made sure, I was doing it right. I went out to San Jose a couple times and trained with him out there when he was living there. He actually lives in the Dallas area now, but we did a show the following year together, the Sacramento Pro, where I placed second. And Hani was like, "Oh, you got the show for sure." But the guy that beat me had a show a couple cities away, and it is what it is. And then after that, did another off season, and then 2011, we prepped for the nationals. And going into that show, I was like the guy that um, back then nationals were very different. It's a very exciting show. nationals were pretty much more exciting than the pro shows, not the Olympia or the Arnold, but of the other pro shows. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he was like, I remember the night before the show, I was on the rooftop with Phil Heath, Pawnee, and the chairman Lee Thompson. We were posing, and they're like, and then leading up to the show, also we were shooting a documentary. It was for the Discovery Channel, but Netflix picked it up too. It was Ronnie Coleman, Brant Warren, myself, a guy named Corey Matthews that I was prepping. That was
I
Ronnie
remember
Coleman's dad,
Corey. Yeah.
and another guy named Chris Hunt. And so that was
How
really
did
cool because
how did you get involved in those circles? I mean, basically, you were not a pro bodybuilder, but you were in the elite circles.
I let's rewind a little bit. So when I was 19, I this girl named Amanda Savell. I don't know if that rings a bell. She was training. We were all training together, okay? And she was doing female bodybuilding at that time, lightweight, and she was with Diamond Ties Nutrition. And so we kind of started dating at that time. She was 26, I was 20, 21. And we met for coffee one day. She's like, hey, bring some pictures. I'm going to see if I can get you on with Diamond Ties. So I had my mom take some like Polaroid pictures and
Oh yeah,
put them in
yeah.
an envelope. And she brought them to Diamond Ties, and they said, yeah, they're really interested in sponsoring you. And Diamond Ties is here in Dallas. And so I went and met the owners and all that. And we spoke a long time because the previous guy, the last guy they sponsored was Craig Titus. And so they're like,
Oh God.
we want to make sure we have a person, because they had problems obviously with Craig Titus a lot.
Yeah.
And so she got me on with Diamond Ties. And then unfortunately after that, she went to another company because she got a better deal. So I didn't know how good I had it, man. I was with Diamond Ties, and this is way before they sold the Post cereal. They were making good products then. And so I was friends with the owner. I was always at the warehouse. I got to know all the people making the supplements, all the people at the place. So it was pretty cool. And they signed me for a contract. And so I was their only male athlete. And so I remember I had an expedition at the time, and they let me go to the warehouse once a month and just fill up my car with as much supplements as possible. And then they were also, paying me a salary on top of that. And
That's
so
a
I
bodybuilder's
remember,
dream come true, man.
oh, it
Shit.
was, bro, I didn't know how good I had it. And then so I would go around to the few gyms in Arlington, and people would see my car pull up. They would all come out. I'd pop my trunk, and I'd sell all the supplements like for 50% off. And I was making probably over 5,000 a month just selling those extra supplements. And so, um, and then you think the grass is greener on the other side. And I was with Diamond Ties for about 3, 4 years. I mean, they sent me to Olympias, the Arnolds. And I mean, I was at
Oh man.
Olympia at the booth, and they spent a lot of money. They had one of the biggest booths, and there's banners everywhere just hanging with my ads
I
on it.
still
And
I
I'm
still
just like,
use their products. I still use their protein.
yeah,
It's
I don't
good
I don't like
shit.
the products anymore because they
Really?
changed a lot of the formulas. But
Oh well, I just still use their protein. But okay, go ahead.
it was just kind of like I didn't realize what was really going on, because I was like, I worked hard. I won my first 4 shows. Bodybuilding was my life. So I was like, okay. And like I said, Joe LaBelle got us a fan base at a very young age, me and my friend Chris Jalali, because of the Most Muscular site and the YouTube. He was doing YouTube at that time before it was even popular. And so at the Diamond Ties booth, they would literally hire about 10 girls to work the booth with you. And so, I was, the first time I went, I believe I was 20, 22, 23. So I was like a young single guy with like 10 girls at the booth. And it was just pretty crazy. And then, MuscleTech back then, everybody was with MuscleTech. They had
Yeah.
everybody signed,
Yeah.
all the pros, all the national guys. And
That's actually that's a question I want to ask you. But go ahead, keep going.
I made a really, this is probably one of the silliest mistakes I made with contract wise. They, I always wanted to be a MuscleTech athlete. I wanted that jump, that jumpsuit, that MuscleTech and that bag, and then,
I remember.
all that. And so Diamond Ties, we were doing a shoot one year, and I did and every shoot we did, I was in. I mean, they had me in double ads in every magazine's whole pages, like for years and years and years, and so got a lot of exposure through them, which was really cool. And so we were doing a shoot after Junior Nationals, 2008, I believe. And I remember MuscleTech contacted me like a few months before then.
Mm-hmm.
And they convinced me to sign with them. Okay. So obviously I couldn't re-sign with Diamond Ties. And the contract with Diamond Ties really wasn't like in writing. It was more like a verbal contract.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept kind of promising stuff like, they had a product called Expand. I was already like the Expand guy, but they were going to give me a lot more. We were supposed to talk about a lot more salary, and they kind of kept putting it off and this and that. I think they were just too busy. But being the, just young, stupid kid, I signed with MuscleTech, and the NDA, I wasn't even allowed to talk to Diamond Ties, and I felt really bad. And so after the Junior Nationals that year, I was supposed to shoot a big campaign with Diamond Ties, and I just didn't show up. It was a really shitty thing to do. And, at the end of the day, the owners were calling my house, and they're like, we just want to make sure he's okay at this point. And I felt really bad, but I felt like they were trying to, because there were some other girls shooting the ads, and they were getting the pay the same as me for the shoot. And I was like, man, I think I should be getting paid more, because I'm really like pushed their product. And I worked really hard when I worked the booths. That's when, nationals were in Dallas, and I really gave my all. And I just felt like a little bit unappreciated. It could have been just in my head. They probably were just busy at the time. And when I went with MuscleTech, I was with them, and I'm like, wow, this wasn't a good decision. I'm just a little fish, with all these top pros, Jay Cutler and all these guys. And I was like, it was a bad decision. If I stayed with Diamond Ties, I really, really could have grown with them, and I just should have been patient. And then they replaced my spot with the late Andy Hammond. So,
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me ask you something about MuscleTech, because that's funny. Because MuscleTech, like you said, it was huge. Everybody was on there. Phil,
yeah.
Branch Warren, Jay Cutler. I mean, there was so many people. Then they kind of like disappeared. They fell off, and then they've been all of a sudden they're making ow shit. Sorry, man. I got to get a different fucking computer chair. Every time I go to move, I fucking crush my balls. The same thing happened when I started. I don't even want to call it an interview. Same thing happened when that shit video came out of me and Lowliner.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but then all of a sudden, the last year or so, like MuscleTech has had a resurgence, and like they're all over social media. They're on Nick Strength of Power, fucking RX.
Yeah.
And what happened? Did they go
They
under? And
they just rebranded. So when it was like the third year I was with MuscleTech, so what they did is they sent out a mass email to all their athletes, and it had all the names up there. So it was about 50 athletes. So it was a lot of top pros and a lot of amateur guys.
Mhm.
And when I was with MuscleTech, we had sit down conversations. They were like, going into this year, did you want to get your pro card? And at that time, that's how I kind of saw how kind of the politics worked. And I'm like, I'm good with waiting a couple more years. So when I get the pro card, I can actually be competitive, because I was a light heavyweight at that time at 5'10". I couldn't have been competitive. So I'm like, I have no problem taking my time. And then it was a little different at that time. Now you see the guys, they try to get as big as possible, as fast as possible now. At that time, me and
Yeah.
at least my friends, we had like a plan, like, hey, we want to be here in 10 years. And so they sent out a mass email just dropping all their athletes at once. It was pretty shitty, but you know, they dropped everybody, except like Jay Cutler and Branch, and I think
Yeah.
Johnny Jackson or
The
something
big
like
guys.
that. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they were just spending too much money. And, none of us were taking the products. I mean, to be honest, the products were, and we would just sell them, and, people would buy them and all that. But Diamond Ties, I really liked their products when I was with them. They really had good products, and they would, sample a lot of stuff to me, get my feedback, and then at that time, I knew eventually in the future I wanted to have my own supplement company because I really enjoyed the whole process, and I got to learn all the guys that manufactured and formulated it all and all that stuff. So
Very cool. By the way, after this interview, don't go anywhere. When we go off air, I got to pick your brain about something, but that's
yeah.
completely different. Uh, all right. So at that point, like you have a huge Instagram following. We have 300,000 followers or something like that.
Yeah, bro, a lot of those are not real. So I hired
Oh,
this company a while back to like help engagement, and what they did is messed up my engagement. They gave me all these fake followers,
oh,
not tons, and then they all these like, so every time I post like a video, people were like, "Oh, you're paying for like all these fake comments." I'm not doing that. I don't know how to get it to stop. So it's actually hurting my algorithm.
really?
And I'm sure you do, and a bunch of people get emails constantly. Hey, you want to build your
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Instagram?
just ignore them.
Do this or do that. But this company I thought was actually legit, and they weren't. And realistically, I don't know how much I really have, but I do really good on. I started doing TikTok a little bit over 2 years ago, and I do really well on TikTok. So
Well, that's good. That's good. You know what? You know what it is about you. You're a likable guy. From the little bit that I know about you. I mean, I've been watching RX Muscle. I mean, since the dawn of time, since it started. Huge fan of RX and Dave Palumbo and so on and
uh,
so forth. And you're a likable guy, and people seem to be, drawn to you because you're a nice guy, you're a likable guy, and plus you're approachable. Plus you do have a lot of muscle and so on and so forth. Do you think that's helped, or because nobody's throwing money my way, and I have this aura of being a dick?
I'll say this. I'm completely transparent with how I made money and all that. Yes, there was a lot of muscle worship back in the day. I had a lot
Ah, I
of people
see.
like kind of
Okay.
do this. Like I'm not doing anything sexual wise, but I'll pose for guys all day. I remember junior nationals, you would get contacted before the show. Hey, you go to do junior national? Yes, yes, yes. So I would show up a few days early. I would go to hotel room to hotel room to hotel room. Bro, I'm not even lying. I would rack up 20 grand in a weekend at junior nationals. Just,
So does this
you
kind of
know,
thing still happen?
no, it's not that prevalent anymore. And the reason why is because when back then you got to understand, being gay was kind of like, not a people weren't really out. You had a lot of people that were married that was secretive about it.
Mhm.
A lot of these fans of mine that they were married, had kids, and their wives had no idea they
Mhm.
had an attraction to muscle or whatever.
Yeah.
So I met a lot of really good connections, and you know, um, it was so much I couldn't even do all the work like that was offered to me. Like, I had infomercial stuff I would turn down because I was traveling like every weekend, and I was just so tired. I was just like, I just want to rest. And I thought it was always going to be that way. And you don't think like, hey, you need to take advantage of every single opportunity you have because it's not always going to be like that. And when you're hot, you're hot. When you drop off and that time's over with, it's your time's over with. But
Right, right, right.
um, going into that 2000 back to the 2011 Nationals, Hani and all of them was like, you got your pro card tomorrow for sure. Like there's no one beating you. The other guy I think was like An Win. That was even if he beat me second place at that time, still got the pro card. And so I got into some trouble a couple weeks out from that show. I actually didn't do anything. I was dating a girl. All my troubles are from girls, bro. Like
Oh,
I've done a lot of stupid stuff in my past, like stuff I'm not proud of, but I didn't get in trouble for. But all the stuff I've got in trouble for, it was just getting involved with the wrong.
what is it about
They,
fitness girls that are just
they,
toxic?
they weren't even fitness girls, man. I stayed away from the
Really?
fitness girls. just like regular girls.
Oh, yeah, you didn't
I
stay
was
away
dating,
from you stayed away from that and fell into the arms of the wrong ones. Oh, by the way,
so I was dating.
if anybody wants to take pictures of me, just go right ahead and hit me up, okay? I have no problem taking pictures for money. Anyway, continue. Go ahead.
So I was I got so anyways, I moved back with my parents at that time because I was like 3 or 4 weeks out from the show. I was staying with the girl at the time. I was like, I just need peace of mind. I just want to concentrate on the show. So I kind of broke up with the girl. And at that time, her and her sister were like in a feud. They were making fake profiles of each other
Oh,
on
Jesus.
like Facebook and all that. And I was like, that's so silly, whatever. And when would come over to my house, she was using my computer. I didn't think anything of it. It's a prank, right? So about 2 weeks out from the show, I had her blocked for everything. She emailed me. She's like, "Hey, my sister called the police, and apparently this is a new law called internet impersonation, and they're tracking the IP address." Okay, so I think like she's just trying to get me to respond to her. This is total BS. It was true. I got my door kicked in by 15 cops, detectives
Holy
in Tarrant
shit.
County. I was literally at home with my brother in my underwear cooking tilapia, guns drawn to my head. Um, they searched my house. They were searching for like all electronics and stuff, and they were told like all this other crazy stuff, like I have guns, and it was just a messy situation where I was training her sister, and her sister made a move on me, and I told the girl I was dating, her sister, like, hey, she did that to me, and that started the feud between them. And so I
Jesus,
guess
man.
for her to get me back, this whole internet impersonation thing, yeah, it was a new law they just made 6 months prior in Texas, a
Wow.
brand new law. And I was the first person charged with that. And so when they raided my house and everything, they searched the whole house for 3 hours. They took all the electronics out of the house. Okay. So I felt so bad, man. They took my parents' computers and just everything. And so luckily my parents weren't home at the time because they kicked the door in. They pounded like twice, then they just knocked it in. I had no clue what was going on. And they had me handcuffed for 3 hours. They searched my whole house. They found my stash of my gear and all that. And they were trying to like, what is this Decaduraball? And I'm like, I have no clue. I was like, I have no clue what that is. I was just acting stupid. Um, and so I didn't get arrested. And so I didn't really tell anybody. I think I told like one person. I didn't even tell Hani because I was like, I just want to go to Miami. I went to Miami like a week early just to get away from all the drama. And apparently, I didn't know at this time. So when I got the third call out, Hani was right behind the judges. He was standing up. He was screaming at the top of his lungs. They had to like calm him down. And after the show, I literally had everybody come out to me that everybody in the industry, all the top prep coaches, Chad Nichols, this person saying, bro, I don't know what happened. I had you at first or second place worse. And then
Wow.
even Ron Harris wrote a write-up in Muscular Development saying, I have no clue how Armon got. He was the third call out. So that means I should be 10th through 15th, but they placed me at 8th place. So Hani called me 3 weeks after the show. He's like, bro, did you get your house rated for gear? I was like, no, I did get my house rated. He goes, well, dude, all the judges knew, and they didn't turn you pro because listen, they're going to turn you pro. And then weeks after or months after, all these, what they thought was steroid charges are going to come out. And that's going to make the IFBB look terrible. You know what I mean? Because at that
Jesus
time,
Christ.
once you turned pro, you were on every you remember you were on every magazine.
Yeah, it was completely
Everybody knew
different.
who you
Yeah.
were. And so I was just heartbroken. And so Hani's like, listen, it's okay. The USAs are in 6 months. They said show up just like this or even better, and you'll get your pro card. So unfortunately, my shoulder was hurt before the show. I had a car wreck before the show where I got rear-ended. I caught myself like that. I kind of had a twinge. I didn't think it was that bad. I had some spinal damage too later down the road. And when I started back training, I couldn't even press anything. So I went to the best surgeon I knew. It was named Dr. Meister. He was a Texas Rangers surgeon. And so we did an MRI on my shoulder. It showed that my AC joint and supraspinatus need to get repaired. So he's like, you'll be out 4 months at the most in rehab. Come back, you'll be fine. So I did the whole rehab. Well, after the surgery, he told me, hey, there was a tear in your labrum. I didn't fix it because where the tear was at, it's not going to affect you. And you got to remember, he's a Rangers, like a baseball player. So you got to understand when baseball players, if they fix their labrum, their career's over because they can't snap that arm back
Yeah.
anymore. They lose that range of motion. I'm not a baseball player. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm like, bro, like, you don't think this is not going to cause problems? He goes, no, where the tear's at, you shouldn't have any issues at all. Well, I did my rehab, and when I started to train back again, I couldn't press more than a 30-pound plate. Went
Wow.
back to him and I said, bro, like, I can't train. So eventually we had to go back in, and I was out 2 years upper body training completely. And that's when everybody just passed me up. I saw all the people I
Yeah.
was beating, like Justin Compton, all these other guys, they passed me up.
Here's a very, very stupid question that I'm just curious about. All
Yeah,
right. I'm just curious about. Bodybuilders don't have health insurance. How did you get all the
I always had health insurance.
how?
I met a good doctor when I was 21, and I made sure I always had health insurance. I always did. So when I started working out, I started coaching my friends for free, and I was really good at it. And so and at that time there wasn't many coaches. I think in the Dallas area there was like 5 coaches in total. So I started coaching people at a very young age just for free, my friends and stuff. And they're like, you should make a business out of this. You're really good at what you do. So at that time, I was coaching people. I was working for my dad. My dad was from Iran, but we had a small Tex-Mex business, family business. And then I was doing strip programs on the weekends while, for women, for all. So I was working like 3 jobs, making as much money as possible. And I was under my mom's insurance at that time because she was a school teacher. So, and there
Okay.
was this doctor that we saw that was a really good doctor. And, I learned all about blood work at an early age. And so, yeah, that's how,
Oh, okay. So you had insurance from your family. Oh, all right.
yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Because every time I'm like these guys, because when I have health insurance just because I'm a union worker, right? But
Yeah.
and when you like I had spinal stenosis and I had 3 herniated discs and I had to get it surgery. And then you look at the bill and you're like, holy shit. It's in the
Oh,
hundreds
yeah.
of thousands. And I'm like, if I don't have health insurance, what the hell what would you do? You know what I mean? But so I'm just always curious about that. So then you go into this spiral where you can't train and shit just comes tumbling down and
Yeah. At the time, my mom was like, hey, honey, I mean, my mom was my best friend. She would go to every one of my shows together. She was my number one supporter. My dad didn't like bodybuilding at all. He was a strict Iranian guy.
typical. Yeah.
He was all about soccer. I was on my way to turn professional soccer. My brother went on to play professional soccer. And when I stopped playing soccer, our relationship kind of like went this way. He hated bodybuilding, even though I did good at it. You got to understand, I understand the steroids and all that stuff he didn't approve of. And he just, you're wearing little trunks. From
I
his
get it.
culture, that was just hard to understand. So,
Well, I mean, he wasn't altogether wrong, right? I mean, think about like
right.
what, yeah, he wasn't altogether wrong. So I get, but
Yeah.
believe me, I get it. I fully understand. And if I had children, I wouldn't want them to go into bodybuilding. I would pick something
Oh,
up.
do you have kids or no?
No, I do not. No.
Yeah, I have 2 kids and I would never want them in the industry at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, because like this there's a dark side to bodybuilding. And I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about the steroids, The steroids could be like if you could regulate your own steroids, but it comes with the situation like you with the paying for, photography and then things like the Nick Trigili thing when it's like a slippery slope, like one thing leads to another. You can make more money if you do something like that. And
Right.
that's and the
Yeah.
other dark side is like the justification of taking anabolics turns into the justification of taking uh you know you know painkillers, or
Right. Yeah. Right. Stuff. Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And there's a huge dark side to bodybuilding. It's and that's what a lot of these young guys don't get. That's why I'm really not into a lot of the social media guys like the Trend Twins,
I'm not a
uh,
fan of all that either, bro. And
because even though they make it look glamorous, there's a true dark side to it. There
yeah.
really is,
At my first, let's go back to Amanda Savell, the one that got me my contract with Diamond and everything.
Right.
She started dating this guy named David Jacobs. I beat him in the overall at my fourth show. So we were at the Olympia after party, and she came up to me and she was like smoking cigarettes. She just competed, smoking cigarettes and doing rec stuff. And I'm like, this isn't you. You're a sweet girl. Like, what's going on? You need to get rid of David. He was a dangerous guy. Everybody saw that he was. And he started getting really obsessive. And I remember the Arnold one year, I got a message from her on Facebook. It was like, leave me alone, Armand. You're engaged and I'm in love with David. First of all, they spelled my name wrong. I knew it wasn't her. So I called her phone. It was disconnected. So I'm like, okay. So I get a call 2 weeks later. It's her. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, David's going crazy. He's messaged me all my guy friends and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, listen. So we met at a show, I think the following weekend. I was like, dear, you need to get away from him. Everybody, her family, all her closest friends were telling her, this guy's going to kill you. Well, he did. It was a big deal in Dallas where it was, he was friends with Art Atwood, and he had a big steroid ring
Oh,
going in Dallas.
I remember Art Atwood. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
he passed away too, right?
Yeah, Art Atwood did too.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, he was selling gear big time. He was selling to the Dallas Cowboys, Falcons, Dallas Police Department. He got caught, and he decided to cooperate fully. He was even going on the news, smiling, saying, "Yes, I'm going to cooperate fully. I'm giving a full name of all the list and everything." So I was 2 weeks out from Junior Nationals, I believe 2009, and I got a call that Amanda was killed. So first, initially, we all thought it was a hit because this guy was going around literally ratting on everybody and smiling in everybody's faces, right? So, I mean, when you're messing with people like high-level people like, football players, cops and all that.
And I'm sure, I'm sure where he was getting his supply from, they weren't the Boy Scouts, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And until this day, it's still kind of like what really happened, but they ruled it as a murder-suicide. Basically, the story was she was in the shower. He kind of convinced her to come over his house. She didn't get invited to the Arnold the year previous because she was tied up with his name. So they didn't invite her. So the next year, she did get an invitation. I think she needed money to, to compete. He called her over. I believe he was in the shower. She was in the shower. He was going through her phone. He saw that she was talking to a lot of different guys, and basically he shot her and then shot himself.
Holy shit.
Yeah, she was 26 years old. She was the sweetest girl ever, man. And she got me the opportunity with Diamond Ties that eventually got me hooked up with Alex Ardenti, one of my favorite photographers, which shot me for Reps and Muscle Mag, and which led to all these different opportunities. And so I had it really good when I was young. And then I just kind of thought like, hey, I worked my butt off. This is what happens when you work your butt off. And so I didn't realize like eventually, social media was going to come in. And I remember I had these DVDs I made that Joe would make for us. They were so boring. It was just like me working out. And Chris, my friend Chris Jalali had them too. If you guys don't know who he is, you can Google him. He was a good bodybuilder, but he was a really good fitness model. Like he did a lot of covers for Muscle Mag, Iron Man. And it was just like, I lost my train of thought, but he was
Chris Jalali.
Yeah, Chris Jalali. But we were just like really promoted and pushed by Alex and all these other guys. They really helped our careers a lot. And so, you know, when this whole thing with Amanda happened, it was, and then that hurt. And then Chris got sick. He went to USA's, competed as a light heavyweight. After prejudging, he got off stage. He was thrown up. He was sick. His girlfriend at the time was a nurse. Okay, they took him to the ER. All his organs were failing. He
Jesus.
was in ICU in Vegas for a month. He came back, and I went over to his apartment. When I saw him, I started bawling. He had a cane. He was 130 pounds. All his hair fell out, his eyebrows, his eyes were completely red, like the white part. His skin was scaling. Um, that scared me so bad. I believe I was 21 at that time. I took a whole year and a half off from competing, and I didn't touch gear at all,
Right,
even
right.
TRT, because I was just scared because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
really know how much gear he was really using, but he was using insane amounts.
When you
And
say insane, give us an idea. What do you mean by insane?
I mean, just for instance, he had his oral. He was taking like orals, like you know, you would maybe take a halotestin like 2 weeks out from your show. He was taking this 8 weeks out from his show with a bunch of other orals. He was taking Cytodrin, which you know, Andreas Munzer, they believe maybe that caused a lot of his
Uh,
hemorrhaging. And you know, when you're in Vegas, it has that it's dry out there, so the dehydration with the Lasix, with all the stuff he was taking, his body just shut down. So that
so it was
scared
a
me so
lot of
bad.
a lot of strong diuretics.
Yeah.
Jesus
And that
Christ,
scared me
man.
really bad. And he healed up from that. And then after that, he got liver cancer.
Holy shit.
So he got a liver transplant, but the first time he missed his liver transplant, you know, you get an extra phone. So when they call 6 hours, you're at the hospital getting the transplant. Apparently, he met this girl out in the country. His phone died. I woke up that morning. I had like hundreds of calls, hundreds of texts.
This guy sounds like
You
a shit show, man.
you missed your transplant.
How do
Luckily,
you
he
miss
got
a
one later
transplant?
on.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Like he got one later on, and he was okay, but he kept pushing the envelope, and eventually he passed away of oxycodone overdose because he had a seizure because he got
See,
off benzos cold turkey, broke his jaw. He
Jesus
had to have
Christ,
another jaw
man.
surgery. So
Wow. See, this is what I mean. Like these are the dark side of, but now don't get me wrong. There are people that know how to handle the fame, that know how to they don't have uh, personalities that are addictive personalities, right? And they can go on and live a healthy lifestyle. I mean, like you see it with like Branch Warren, he's married, he's got kids. But then there is like this really dark side, and it doesn't end well, you know. And it's kind of sad. The lifestyle, I don't know what it is about the bodybuilding lifestyle, but I'll say this: it's for some reason it's very achieving and addicting, the bodybuilding lifestyle, and I'm happy doing a podcast and YouTube channel and being the guy kind of like on the outside looking in, being a critic, having fun, doing a podcast. It helps me still stay involved with bodybuilding, but at the same time stay away from the garbage that surrounds it. And I just don't like I never had an addictive personality, but I also like kind of knew when to pull away when things started getting hot, you know. And I think
yeah,
there are people that instead of like saying, "Oh, I'm getting too deep," there are people that just go headfirst in when things get hot, and it blows me away because it's like to me it should be instinctive, especially for men, to be like, "Okay, I'm in a bad situation here. I better get myself out of it," right? But no, a lot of people just dive headfirst and they go, "No, this whole mess will just gets worse and worse and worse," and it's really unfortunate. And I truly believe that this is what causes a lot of the deaths in bodybuilding. It's just not spoken about for whatever reason.
you know, I lost a lot of friends to recreational drug use, mainly opiates, and then I had my run with opiate addiction too, which I'm very open about. And you get a lot of people that criticize you and talk nasty to you, which I think is really scummy because I'm so open about it because I want to help others not make the same mistakes I did. And there's a lot of of course, I'm not going to mention names, pros out there right now, and a lot of big name guys that have messaged me. They're like, hey, man, I'm struggling right now too. Thank you for coming out with this and talking about it. There's a lot of guys struggling with opiate addiction, and it's always been around in bodybuilding. Obviously, you're training, you're hurting, hey, I'm really sore. I'm going to take an oxy and then, make me feel better. And then it's like,
Yeah,
you're
even
taking them all throughout the
even
day.
when you're prepping for a show and you can't sleep, oh, I'll take a Xanax, or you don't have the energy to get through a workout, so you'll take Adderall, or whatever the case may be. It's just a slippery slope. But I'm actually glad that you got the help you needed and you're helping other people. Do you mind? I mean, I won't get into too much detail, but do you mind if I ask you a couple of
Yeah,
questions
go
about
ahead.
that?
Yeah, I'm transparent.
Um, You were on Dave Palumbo, the last RX Muscle, and we were talking about you guys were talking about Mark Lobliner, but your friend Larry had mentioned something, and to his credit, he didn't say anything. He just said that they were worried about you.
Yeah, so that it was like a misunderstanding. It was kind of a little frustrating. I know Larry's a little, you know. So when we took this trip to Mexico, I make jokes sometimes and people take it literally. And um, I think he kind of did. And he called me one night. It was like really late. He's like, bro, like, first of all, dude, that was the stupidest thing to do, a 3 week prep. And yeah, I got back from Mexico. I lost a lot of weight in Mexico because we weren't eating. We did the stem cell, which we fasted. I fasted for. Dave didn't get put under. I got put under and I did all my neck and spine. So I got back and I was prepping one of my best friends, Stephen Frazier, for the Texas Pro. And we competed on a lot of shows coming up together. I was like, man, that'd be really cool if we kind of did this show together. And I think I could prep in 3 weeks because I did it before after I retired for just a local show. And bro, at the time I wasn't sleeping. I have really bad insomnia. I've had it for a long time. And so, I haven't touched opiates in almost 4 years now.
Good.
Okay. Um, I don't know what he was trying to say. I think he doesn't really talk much on the show. And so he was like trying to make a statement or something and it just sounded bad. And then, gosh, I had all these people afterwards messaging me like,
Right,
he
right,
thinks,
right.
and I'm like, I messaged him like, bro, like you stirred up a lot of stuff that doesn't even make sense because, I know an RX muscle, I think towards the beginning when I first started back on there, I've always been involved in RX over all the years, but I wasn't sleeping at all and I got on. I probably should have got on. I probably just should have slept those days. I dozed off in a couple episodes. And people are like, oh, he's on drugs again and all this and all that. No, I'm not on drugs. But, Larry sleeps the whole time on every show, and I'm just being honest. And I'm like, how is someone calling me out for sleeping when he sleeps? And so
What do you mean? He
it was
just falls
just
asleep on the show. Oh, what's funny is I do a muscle. That's so funny you said that. I do a muscle talk. It's similar to what you guys do the after hours, right? And I have Jason on, and one time he did fall asleep while we were doing it,
yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, everybody, shh, Jay's sleeping. Be quiet, be
yeah.
quiet."
And so he called me one night around 4 about doing the show. He's like, you don't look good. And bro, I didn't look good at all. I mean, I burned off a crazy amount of muscle. My body, I wasn't sleeping. I went catabolic. I looked absolutely terrible. My whole
No.
back went away. It is what it is. I was stupid. And, but I was like, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And
Mhm.
I look bad. I look terrible. And the thing with the before and after pictures, the whole Photoshop thing, that photographer, everybody knows him in Dallas. He dramatically shops all his pictures.
Yeah,
People know him for that.
yeah.
All my pictures over the years, I've never touched one of my pictures personally myself, ever. I mean, all the magazine pictures I've shot, I mean, I've been in over hundreds of magazines. I've never touched any of those pictures, okay?
Mhm.
And even the magazines, they would Photoshop some stuff sometimes, maybe a little dark, a little, editing here. I remember even Evan Santapani, he had a really good cover before, but it was heavily Photoshop. And when I posted those pictures, I'm like, it's obvious this is Photoshop.
That's
Nobody,
how I
it
took it.
looks like, I mean, if you look at the photographer's page, he has pages with people with capes on, half their
Yeah,
bodies like reptiles. Like this was like a known picture. And then the comparison shot, bro, when you're in between a pose, like you're getting ready to hit it, you're exhaling, your arms aren't flexed, they get the worst picture possible. And then they put them side by side and they lie and they don't tell the whole story what's going on. You
Right.
could have easily looked on my Instagram weeks prior. I shot an ad campaign for my new supplement line, and it shows me training, and I'm big and I'm full, and it's just that show. I looked horrible. I'm not going to lie. That whole thing was silly. I don't know anything about Mark. I'm not going to come back and stoop to his level and
Yeah.
call names or make
Well, you
fun
didn't.
of.
You didn't have to. Everybody did it for you.
No, that's
I
just not
mean,
my deal. That's one thing
Dave,
I don't like
me.
about bodybuilding either. When the magazine days, everybody lifted each other up. It was a really awesome time to bodybuild. Now, since social media come along, you got a lot of people competing that aren't real competitors. They're just wanting to do shows. People love drama,
Yeah.
and
Do you think he did that because he needed views and he just was like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. I just think it's all views. And
yeah, the drama and so on and so
bro,
forth.
I'm not even in the mix. I'm not competing at a pro level. I literally picked up a 3 week prep. Who does a 3 week prep anyways? I did a show.
Hmm.
Um, I look bad. I burned off an insane amount of muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I'm back up 20 pounds. I look great now. If I decide to compete again, I would do it right. I would prep 8 weeks. You got to understand though, I've got a lot of injuries. I've had a lot of surgeries, non-bodybuilding related.
Hmm.
I was on some pretty nasty antibiotics, Levaquin, that caused some tendon tears. And if I decided to prep before, like in 2014, I came back and started competing again because when my mom got sick and diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, I needed to keep my mind busy. And so even after I got passed up by all the bodybuilders, and I knew I could never be that same bodybuilder from being out those 2 years, because 2 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not, and it wasn't like I was doing an off season. I wasn't training at all. I mean, I got tiny.
Right.
And so I got back into competing in 2014. I did 3 shows and I was doing it. The first show was called Peak Muscle Fest, which is this Chad Nichols was this one. And so all the money went towards breast cancer. And I kind of did that for
Ah,
my
okay.
mom
For your mom, yeah.
and remembrance of her because she went to every one of my shows. And this was the first year she wasn't going to be there. Obviously, she passed away. And
I'm
I had a
sorry to
really
hear that,
hard
man.
time dealing with that. And so I wanted to keep my mind busy. Came back in 2014 and I just realized after the show, I'm like, where's all the shoots that you make money from? Where's this? And there was no money anymore. And I'm like, it's time to hang it up. I just found out I was having a daughter at the time with a girl um, I was seeing. I wasn't really even dating her. And I
Yeah.
told that whole story on RX Muscle and the whole detailed story of all that drama, how my daughter got kidnapped and all that stuff. But
Jesus Christ, man, what a life! This is like
yeah,
you better call like the Hallmark Channel or something. Oof,
I know, do a Lifetime movie. But
really?
I told the whole story on RX Muscle. I'm really transparent about my life, man, because I want people to the mistakes I made, other people not
Yeah.
to make that.
Well,
And what is
people appreciate transparency. People appreciate
yeah,
that's real. I try to stay as real as possible as well, and I try to stay as transparent as possible as well. I mean, we all have stories, we all have things that we went through, but mine is not as dramatic as yours. But I just want to touch on a couple of things before we wrap up. As I don't want to keep you that long. Plus, I got a fucking another podcast to do after this on
yeah.
my other channel. But anyway, um, what did you think? Okay, you had a bunch of people that like Dave stood up for you, Lee Priest, me, kind of in a way. I had my own beefs with Lobliner, but what'd you think
Right.
about? Because here's the funny part. What'd you think about the response from Lobliner to Dave after he stood up for you?
Um, I, I think just for views, man. I don't know, Mark. I mean, like I said, the
No,
only
but the things that he said, though, I mean, when he called him, said plumbolism is a disease name,
Dave has thick skin. Dave is one of the main staple people in this industry.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
helps so many people, not even asking for money a lot of times. He's just a good, positive person in this industry. Some people might not like him or whatever. And I just thought that was really cheap shots. Like I said, I don't know anything about Mark at all. And I'm not
Mhm.
going to come on here and talk bad about him because that's not me. I think, there's already so much negativity in the industry
Yeah.
and people dealing with so many, insecurities and all this stuff like that. People should lift people up. You know what I mean? It's just like, why go after people? The whole thing with me, did it bother me? No, bro. I have thick skin. I've been through hell and back in my life. And
Yeah,
so
obviously.
I just thought it was silly. And I'm not going to make a response to all these different people.
Yeah.
The other guy that does whatever other videos. I just thought it was like, these guys, they're not, the other guys, they're not bodybuilders. I guess Mark is, the other guys, they're not bodybuilders. They just thrive off of, drama and all this. And
All right, so
it,
we'll skip that. But did you see the response to Lee Priest? Did you see that one?
yeah.
Because that was, to me, that was a little odd because Lee basically stood up for you and stood up for Dave, and then Mark kind of like chose to take the high road all of a sudden. Um,
Well, I think he saw that he was getting, tore down by a lot of people. So,
yeah, and then of course I'm going to ask you about. Did you see the video with me and Lowliner?
um, yes.
Okay. Now I know I listen. I was very disrespectful to him during the interview. I'm not going.
Yeah, I
I'm
messaged you. Like, I thought it was good that you kind of like just cut it short and was just like, it was like a lot of tension. And I just thought some people just don't get along, man. And some people just
That's
shouldn't
it.
stay friends, and that's it,
I just so yeah. So I, and this is going to be the last time I talk about it because people are going to want to, when I put this up, people are going to want to know our opinion of the whole situation. So
Yeah.
he's the only guy in uh 4 years of me podcasting. I have two channels, right? The bodybuilding channel only started about a year and a half ago. I have another channel that I started 4 years ago. He's the one person in 4 years that I've interviewed that I was ever disrespectful. But I have like one rule: if you're disrespectful to me, then I'm going to be disrespectful to you, especially if I don't know you. So those DMs that I had read, I'm not going to go over it again, but
Yeah.
I messaged him to come on, and he was very disrespectful. And so I didn't know him, so that makes me dislike him. Um, and then when it came out to you, that whole situation, that's when I revealed it, right? And then now he's coming on and saying, "Oh, brother, you can come on anytime." And when he came on, I
Yeah.
didn't think it was very sincere. So that when he was saying things like, "I'm just a regular guy," and I'm not that guy that you think I am, and so on and so forth, and I didn't think it was sincere, and I was getting aggravated because I thought he was really being phony. So
Yeah.
I was getting very aggravated. So even though um I looked like the bad guy in that situation. I can't stand like phoniness, so I kept going at him like, what do you mean you're a regular guy? You're one of the biggest YouTube channels in bodybuilding, and you're not just a regular dude. I mean, you're an extremely wealthy guy, and and then when he started justifying that had problems at work and problems at home, and that's why he was nasty to me in the DMs, it just
There's no excuse, bro.
I
Everybody
just
goes through hard times. What I'm
yeah.
going through, really
So
rough stuff.
I started really getting really angry, and I'm like, this guy's, I didn't think it was sincere, right? So then after some time, I was like, all right, well, we're done here because it was just tension after tension after tension. But I'm not going to take it down. I'm not apologizing for what I did. I didn't get rid of any of the negative comments. You can go and look if you, and like I've said this on one live feed that I did. If you don't like the way I approached it, you can go watch another channel. But this was me. It was the first time I was ever disrespectful to somebody. The next day we texted. There's no hard feelings. You put it past it, and that's really it. I'm not, it is what it is. I'm not hiding from it. I put it out there. I could have not put the video out there because it was on my channel. I could have said something stupid like, "Oh, I got screwed up." I was like, "No, I'm putting it out there. I'm going to let people see and be as transparent as possible." And there are times that you're going to think I am the nicest guy in the world. And there are times going to be you think I'm going to dick, and that time you're going to think that I was a dick, but I was just getting angry because I didn't think he was sincere. That's basically what it comes
I don't
down
think
to.
it was. And the thing is, like I said, like I'm
Don't
not,
you
I
you
felt
don't think
like I
it
didn't have
was?
to
Or
help because I didn't think it
say that
was.
again. I'm sorry, man. You broke up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it wasn't sincere, but it's like people, bro, I got so many messages, so many positive messages, like saying, man, like that's really shitty of him. And then other messages that were really nasty, like, oh, you want to Photoshop this picture, this picture. I'm like, if you guys look at my pictures and my history, like I was in all the magazines. I'm not gonna like go on and brag about myself, but like this is one photographer that photoshops everything, and he's known for that. And when I posted the picture, and people were like, oh, you're using those pictures to sell your services. No, if you go through my website, I've got pictures from Ironman magazine, from other shoots. And so they're making blatant lies.
Mm.
And I didn't feel like I needed to respond and take up for myself because it was so silly that I thought it was just ridiculous. And it didn't even need a response. And Dave kind of went ahead and stepped in anyways, where people were like, why does Dave have to I was like, I have nothing to say. I don't know the guy. I don't know anything about him. I have nothing bad to say. What am I going to pick on him about? Say you got small arms, or because
Yeah, 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 yeah.
what am I going to say? I don't really care. I'm not that petty. I've been through a lot of rough stuff in my life. I've lost a lot of people. Life is precious. Life is short. Let's say you go make a shitty video about somebody, and we have so many deaths in this sport. That person passes away the next week. How shitty are you going to feel? It's like
Yeah, right, right.
people need to lift each other up a lot more. People love drama. I get it. They love the back and forth stuff. I understand all that. It's entertainment, but I'm not one of those guys where I get on podcasts. I am who I am. I don't have a internet personality.
I'm the same
I
way,
don't
dude.
act. It is what it is. I try to inform people, educate people what I've been through with competing, judging, coaching, um, you know, the rec stuff and bodybuilding, to stay away from all the painkillers. And I try to help people, and I love helping people. And if I help just one person out of all these people not OD or do like this, I feel like I'm doing a good service. And people can say whatever they want to about me. The people in my life that really know me know who I am and know like my true heart. I don't really need to come out here and say, no, I'm such a good person because I do A, B. I don't need to do that.
Right,
And
right,
so,
right. Which is what I thought he was doing, right? That's
yeah,
what I thought he was doing. That's what I thought he was doing on my channel, and that's what I thought he was doing when he responded to Lee Priest. But um all right, I'm going to end the interview. First of all, man, thank you for coming on.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on, bro. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Much love, much respect. Plug your stuff. Do you have a podcast, services? You said you have a supplement line.
Yeah, I have a supplement line. I have my old one I've been doing for about 8 years, but we're at DB Army Nutrition.
What
The
is
new
it?
one,
What is it?
a DB Army Nutrition, but
DB
my new
Army,
line is called AMG Labs,
AMG
LAB.
Labs.
You can get that on my website now. The AMG Labs website will eventually be up. That's just on armonadb.com. I used to coach a lot of competitors. I scaled back in competitors a lot. I enjoy working with a lot more lifestyle people. I'm not one of these guys that has to go chase like the top pros. I've talked to a lot of top competitors over the last year. They're very difficult to work with. You see how people coach hop every single season.
Oh yeah.
I like working with people, taking someone that's never competed before, taking them in a couple years and making them a really good competitor. That's the thing I like to do. All the information is on my website, and
Well, I'm gonna
I
put your
love helping.
website. I'm gonna put your website in the description. I'm gonna put the AMG Labs where you can get them in the description, so everybody could click and go and see what that is all about. Again, man, all the love in the world, all the respect in the world. Really appreciate you coming on. But hang out because I got to pick your brain. All right.
Yeah,
All right. Let's see.
yeah,
How
for
do I
sure.
how do I stop this
Thanks.
thing without ending it? There.